Hello everybody, in this video I have a little session of working in my family history album to share with you. I'm using the Simple Stories Simple Vintage Ancestry collection and a 6x8 snap album to do all of this. I don't know how much of this collection is still going to be available because I bought it sort of autumn last year, but there might be bits and scraps to be found. But also the designer Tracy Perte, I have no relationship or affiliation with her at all, but she has an online digital store of all of her collections. So as I'm going through this album and making all the things, I'm thinking it doesn't matter if I run out because I can get the digital version online and print it off. So just something I've kept in mind the whole time, so I don't, when you're working on something as a project in particular and you kind of hesitate using certain bits because it's like, oh no, what if I need to use that for something else, or oh no, I'm going to run out of paper or anything like that. Having the knowledge that there's a digital version or a printable version has helped a lot. Anyway, that was a rambly beginning, sorry. In this little session I am working on the oldest pictures I have from my dad's side of the family, but I'm also starting off with, I had a couple of birth certificates and a marriage certificate and a demob certificate as well, so I'm going to include those in these pages. This first one here, so I'm using a pocket page, one that has two 4x6 pockets, and this first one is a marriage certificate from, so I'm going to go get the album because it's going to be so much easier to tell you about it if I've got the information in front of me. Okay, so that marriage certificate is the earliest thing I have. It's from 1856. I don't have a copy of the original. I think my dad's cousin did some family history stuff, and so it's those ones, you can apply to the council for a copy of it because it says at the bottom like this copy was requested in 1982 or something like that. So I've got that marriage certificate, which was between George, every man in the family is called George, by the way, pretty much all of them, and Harriet. And you can tell how old it is, sign of the times, because on the marriage certificates it says father's occupation. For his father's occupation it says something like labourer, or yeah, labourer, and then for hers it just says Harriet Richards is illegitimate, which I just, goodness me, it was a different time. And it also says on there her condition was a spinster, and it's like, she was 21, for goodness sake. Anyway, 1856, what are you going to do? These pictures here I'm cutting out. These are the next generation down. So George and Harriet's son and his wife. I presume his name is George. It actually says granddad on the back because it was my grandma's picture and it's her granddad. But I know for a fact the lady's name is Julia. And then I have the birth certificate of their son, George, of course, they're all George, and his wife, Florrie, my grandma's parents. I think I've got that right. So I'm going to have Julia and George cut out on the bottom there, and then I've got kind of like a tip-in on a tip-in of those birth certificates, which I wanted to add because I don't have any pictures of them. So I've just tipped those in. I think it's Tim Holtz washi I'm using here. I go between the washi that comes with the Vintage Ancestry collection, and then I've also of course, beloved Tim Holtz washi. I'm not going to be able to link that because most of the Tim Holtz washi is discontinued, which is just like the biggest sad face ever. If you see it anywhere and you don't have it already, or even if you do have it already, just snap it up if you see it. Just get it, because as I said, it's discontinued. Buy all the Tim Holtz washi where you see it. Hopefully they'll bring it back eventually. So for my little page with Julia and, we'll just call him great-great-granddad, because just in case he's not a George, I am kind of decorating a lot of these individual pages with just lots of ripped up scraps and things. I think it adds to the whole vintagey element and idea of everything, and then it also extends my collection as far as it's going to go. So say I've backed a picture with a pattern paper or some card, or I've used it to create a pocket page or something, I can then use the leftovers to actually decorate the page. I'm also using a lot my old-fashioned Dymo label maker thing to add names and titles and things. It doesn't have an ampersand, which is really annoying, so I decided just to letter that, and then also hand letter their last name. Please excuse the top of my head poking in, it's going to do that a lot throughout this video. I think I forgot where I put the camera and just kept leaning in, and you just keep seeing the back of my head and hair that really desperately needed washing, but yeah, sorry about that. So I've written Julia and George Allen, and then I am got a little label that says parents of, and then drawing a little arrow to go up to George Henry, and bringing out the Dymo label maker again to write out grandma's parents. Annoyingly, another thing they don't have is an apostrophe, so I had to draw that in, because if you know me, you know I am a stickler for grammar, and if there needs to be an apostrophe, I have to put it in there, or I will just shrivel up and die if I don't do that. That's a fact. Anyway, I'm kind of reflecting what I did on that bottom piece with the ripped up scraps and some things put behind the ripped up scraps, and there's lots of nice layers. Just the word heritage on a 2x2 cut apart, then these stickers from the sticker book of the old-fashioned portraits looking at each other. I thought that would be nice considering I don't have pictures of those two, and as I said, writing grandma's parents and writing in my own apostrophe. And that's going to be it for the front of those two pocket pages. And then I have my earliest photos from my granddad's side. So there's one picture of, I think I'm going to swap those around because I had them in the wrong order. So these pictures, the one at the top, the slightly darker one, is Mary, Winnie and Doris, Mary being my granddad's mum and then his two older sisters. And then the next picture with the three children is Mary, Winnie and George, my granddad, when he was a little boy, because sadly they lost both of their parents. Their dad died in World War I. I'm going to have another page about that. And Mary, his wife, died a year or so, I think it was 2 years afterwards. Now, the family legend is that she died of a broken heart. I think that it's quite likely she died of Spanish flu because the timing is right. Now, I'm not saying, you know, she can't die of a broken heart. I mean, if you've ever had your heart broken, you know how much like it affects you physically as well as mentally. So if she was really run down because of how devastated she was about the loss of her husband, that may well have really contributed to her death if it was Spanish flu. So I don't know for sure, that's just my theory, but there we go. I'm sorry if that's really depressing or has triggered anything for anyone. I do apologise. But anyways, with these individual little cards, I have done the same thing. Lots of scraps and bits and pieces just to layer things up, and minimal effort, but looks really, really pretty. And then a little label on each page with the names of each person. And I haven't said so, but as you may have noticed, I am going around absolutely everything with Distress Oxide in Vintage Photo because, well, obviously. Decided these pages needed a little extra something, so just doing my usual of ripped up bits and scraps of washi tape. And then I've put that into the album, but I am going to bring it back out to add a few things to it. But here I wanted to do a page for my great-granddad and, well, both great-granddads actually. One survived World War I, one sadly didn't. So the first page is going to be for George Robson Fairbairn, my granddad's dad, who he'd never met because my granddad was born in 1916 and his dad died in 1917 well, we don't know for sure, but you know, in the trenches in the Battle of Cambrai, something like that. So I cut out that 6x4 card from the cut apart sheet and I kept the part with the branding strip just to make it a little bit wider, and then hid the branding strip, you know, what was written on it with washi on the other side. It just makes it a little bit bigger for its own little page in the album, and kind of an obvious part where you can put your hole punches and stuff. But yes, I grabbed one of these frames. There's a little ephemera pack of frames, but they're all mostly very small, and I don't really think I have any pictures that are small enough for these frames, so I thought I would use them as little labels and places to put family information. So I've written there George Robson Fairbairn, Private George Robson Fairbairn, his regiment, his date of death, battle, etc., etc. And I came into the sticker book to find a sticker that says remember forever or something like that, but as I was looking at it, I found all these stickers that would be really appropriate for the other pages I'd already done. So I'm just going to quickly go through and add those little bits and pieces there. Things like forgotten ancestors, and I can't see them all right now. Where is that at? Yesteryear I've got written down, and unknown ancestors, as I already said. The oldest for the oldest pictures, and yeah, there we go. And then on the reverse side of that, I'm going to have a copy of my great-granddad's, my grandma's dad's demobilization certificate, because obviously he survived World War I, and it just says, you know, the information about when he was enlisted, November 1915, when says he was transferred to the Army Reserves, July 1919, says about what medals he gets and all of that sort of stuff. So that's just a nice little thing to have. And I have, again, with the vintage photo around the edges. I found this little thing that just says family history. I thought, why not put it there? And I'm going to add a little label just to say great granddad Alan, just so I know which one's which. Well, not really for me, but maybe for anyone else looking through the album who didn't know. So, you know, the information is there, not just his name, but who he is to me. And because I'd done that on the reverse, I thought I'd better do that on the front as well. So I wrote Great Grandad Fairbairn on that side. So now on to slightly happier things. I'm going to do a couple of pages about my grandma and granddad and their earlier years together. So I have grabbed a pocket page with 4 3x4 slots, and I've just cut up some 3x4s from leftover scraps of cardstock rather than actually going for the 3x4 cards, because most of the 3x4 cards in the collection have titles on them and stuff, and I knew I was going to cover them all up with photos, so just scraps I thought would be better for this. I have a photo of my grandma. She told me it was when she was 17, so I've guessed the year based on that, worked out the year based on that. It's a picture of my granddad and 2 other guys, which if you look very closely in the background, it says Glasgow's World Fair 1938. So that's how I dated that picture. I don't know for sure who the other 2 guys are. One looks a bit like my granddad, so I think he might be a cousin that my granddad was raised with, because obviously after his parents died, him and his sisters were raised by an auntie. And the other guy, I have no idea who he is, but I have another picture of my granddad and 3 others in the Navy, and that guy looks like he might be in that picture as well. So I don't know, my grandma didn't know, but anyways, nothing really complicated with those pages. I added those dates with my label maker. I added just a few stickers and scraps of washi, really, and that's about it. I will go back to them in a minute though. And then on the other side, this is all about my granddad in World War II. I have these 4 photos, and then I have that photo as well of the 4 guys in the Navy, and I'm going to include that in a kind of fun way a little bit later. Because I knew I was going to include that in the middle, I've put each one of those 4 photos right to the far corner of each 3x4 card and decorated again with my scraps of washi and a couple of stickers as well. I also thought they needed, you know, a little something extra, so I went on each one and did a faux stitched border around the edge, and then once I'd done that on those cards, I realised it made the cards on the other side look a bit plain, so I'm going to turn those over and do like a scribbly border around each photo there. And I'm actually going to do the same on this side, where I have a larger photo that I'm going to add to the middle. So I found this 4x4 cut apart card, which I kept the branding strip of, again like with the previous one, to make it fold easily and just have that little bit of extra space. And it said on it, a lifetime of love, which is so perfect for my grandma and granddad. They loved each other so much. They got their 70th wedding anniversary telegram from the Queen just a couple of months before my granddad passed. He also passed a couple of months before his 100th birthday, so didn't get that telegram from the Queen, which I'm still grumpy about, but anyway. So that picture, the larger one in the middle, is their engagement photo, and that photo I'm just playing with there, putting in the pocket, is of my grandma, and it's the one she gave to my granddad to take to war with him. It says "All my love, Mill" on it, and he took it off and he brought it back in perfect condition. He was a plane mechanic and he spent the war in India, so he didn't see any action, thank goodness. And he never ever ate Indian food ever again, bless him. He did not, he never liked foreign food, as he would say. He was like a meat and 2 veg guy for the rest of his life. He loved the people though, don't get me wrong. Like, my dad was telling me a story the other day about how some of the lads at the army camp were given a rough time to one of the locals, and my granddad stepped in because he was just not, they would not have that sort of thing. He was like, absolutely not. And he was like, he would always step in when it came to any sort of racist behaviour from the British boys to the Indian locals. He was just like, nope, absolutely not, that's not going to happen. So yeah, my granddad was pretty awesome. So I wrote India World War II on there, and then to include those extra pages, I have sewn them in with my sewing machine. So you've got those little flip outs of the picture of like the 4 boys in the Navy, and then the other side my grandma and granddad's engagement photo. On this side though, just in that middle bit under the photo was weirdly plain and annoying me. So I found just a thing that says remember, put it on a scrap, did the old oxide around the edges and put that there just to fill in that awkward gap really. And that, I think, I'm just showing you all my pages there, is going to be it. Oh, I decided to add World War One in the same style to this page just so it matched up with the World War Two one, you know, it all ties in together and everything and matches and blah blah blah. But yeah, those are my pages. I'm really happy with them. I love all the interactive elements, being able to just flip up things and unfold things to look and discover all the extra little bits and pieces, especially the way I added like the engagement photo and things like that. So just because it's like officially scrapbooking doesn't mean it can't be interactive like you do in your journal or junk journal or whatever. I see this as kind of like a hybrid of scrapbooking, junk journaling, all of the different things. Anyway, that's going to be enough from me. Relevant links in the description. There won't be too many because I think the only extra thing I used was vintage photo distress oxide, but anything as I said will be in the description. Please leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Tell me about your own family scrapbooking or ancestry or anything like that. I would love to know. And yep, that's it. Thank you so much for watching again. Bye bye.